Paranormal Karen, she's so spooky. Paranormal Karen, funny too. Paranormal Karen, she's so spooky. Oh, and did I mention she's funny too? Yeah, cha-cha-cha.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to Paranormal Karen. I'm doing a potpourri episode of kind of putting a bunch of different things together. So this one might be a little longer. It's kind of bouncing around on other topics. But today I am joined. And join the Patreon, or what is my ad? I need to get an ad for myself. Sign up for my email list on my website so you get the comedy dates, and everything else is at Rontowski at Instagram and on TikTok, and look out for scammers trying to get your money because they're there. Okay, so today I'm talking to my friend Lauren Early about a potpourri of things, but I have to laugh because Lauren, I said to you, I was like, it's early, right? Because I literally talked to everybody through text, and I was like, I could screw up early. I better ask. But you have a little trouble with it too, right?
Yes, I was explaining early is my new last name. It's my married name. And so I got married back in September of 23. And I was telling you, Karen, that it was funny because I'm kind of notorious for not being very punctual. So for my hashtag at the wedding, it was hashtag first time ever early.
I love that so much. I know. That's the irony. Maybe we can all pick our husband's last names with some sort of irony like that. So
I know. Yeah, I was like, maybe it should be lately.
That is awesome. All right, my dear. So let's jump into your story. Tell me about your spiritual awakening.
So in late 2016, my spiritual awakening began. And my first experience, I call it a timeline jumping experience. Mm-hmm. And so I was driving on the highway one evening. It was dark. And the highway had two lanes going both ways. So I was in the left-hand lane. And I looked up ahead and I saw something in my lane. And it took me a minute to figure out what it was. And I came to the conclusion that, oh, those are headlights.
Oh.
And then it took me a second to dawn on me. And I was like, oh, those are headlights. So I went into emergency mode and I noticed I had a vehicle in the right lane beside me. And so I just hoped that he saw what was going on and understood that I needed to get over in that lane.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I'm pretty sure I closed my eyes. I'm pretty sure. And I just closed my eyes and hoped that car saw what was going on. And I swerved over into the right lane. I made it. I opened my eyes just in time to feel the swoosh of the car past me.
Wow.
Going the opposite way.
You know, I have to tell you, I have had that same experience, and exactly what you're saying. You're looking at headlights and you're like, why are those? Oh, right?
Oh, I got to do something. Yeah.
Yes. So you just make it, and this is sort of like a weird turning point for you. I have to ask a weird question because you called it a timeline jump. Do you think there's another reality where you didn't make it?
Ooh, I hadn't thought about that. But I will say I do believe in the many worlds theory.
Ah.
So for every decision that we make, so we make a decision and we play that out in this reality. But for every decision that we didn't make, also plays out in a parallel reality. And so that now that you say that is very, very interesting.
Yeah, I think I think that I had that same experience and I died, but I think I'm in Utica. Like right now I'm dead, but it just looks like Utica.
Yes. And
so
you know, there was like a death there because the old me
Yep.
It was an instant waking up. And just for background, I will say that at that time, I was in a toxic long-term relationship, and I was also in active addiction. So when that happened, it was like I could see my life from a different perspective, and I could see how ridiculous everything was. And it was like after I had that experience, I had the bravery and the will to get out of my situation. So I left my relationship. I left my job that I went to college to get a degree for. I moved out of my house and moved back in with my mom and started all over.
That's
And I was
really
27.
Yeah, that's really inspiring. I know like moving home to mom and stuff doesn't sound inspiring, but I'll just throw this in. Here's my 2 cents. It is so hard to make changes. It takes so much bravery to make any change, never mind a change like this. So, okay. And were you a therapist? I forget. What was your job at that point?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
So I have my bachelor's degree in human services counseling. So I'm not I wasn't a licensed counselor, but I was a behavioral health case manager. So pretty much same thing, just didn't get paid as much as the licensed therapist.
Okay.
But yeah, I didn't have my master's. So.
Okay.
But yes.
Great. And then you're kind of like, hey, and you quit that and now you're at home with mom and the world starts to change. Tell me about it.
Yes. So my world gets very dark. And I say that because it was almost like a film was over my physical eyes. There was a grayness to everything. There was I felt like I was in an abyss.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
And also you had said something, this started your Saturn return. And I think I'm in my Saturn return. So I'm connecting with everything you're saying. Did you feel disconnected from the world even more so?
Oh, very much.
Okay.
So from my relationship, it was a narcissistic relationship. So by the time I left, I didn't really have any friends. And so I was very much alone, but I was meant to be alone at that time. It was pretty hard though.
Yeah.
Yeah. But from there, I lived with my mom for 3 years and I bartended for a couple years in there. And so one evening I was working and I happened to be on a break and I was standing outside with a couple of friends visiting and we're standing by their vehicle. And you know how when you have something move in your peripheral vision, this was not on the side of my vision. This was up top. So something motion, made me look up to the sky. And I kid you not, I see a massive spacecraft in broad daylight.
Oh, okay. And I love this so much. Go ahead. I'm not going to interrupt you because this is not a dot. This is not lights in the sky that we don't know what it is. This is like the whole out of a scene in a movie.
Yes. And it's funny you say that because what it actually reminds me of is that old movie, Independence Day. I was young when that came out, but I do remember a scene where there's a big spacecraft over like the White House or something.
Yeah, it was hovering over it had like places in the city where it was hovering over. So, and you're not the only one that sees this. Someone with you sees this.
Correct. I had 2 people with me and I said, what the bleep is this? And I said, do y'all see this? And they said, yeah. And I wasn't scared or I was just kind of in shock, really. So first thing, I grabbed my phone to take a picture. And my friends do as well. interestingly enough, when I go to take the picture of this craft, the craft isn't showing up on the phone camera.
Okay.
But I see it in physical reality.
I have heard of this, and I've heard of it the other way. Okay, keep going. This is great.
Yes. And so when I would look in the phone camera, I just saw clouds, like sky, and I'm like, what is going on? Because I obviously see this massive thing right here. And so at that time, it was kind of like a feeling like I was seeing something I wasn't supposed to be seeing. So I said, I think I'm going to go inside. And so we went inside, and, I knew nobody would probably believe me. So I didn't say anything at first. I told my best friend that I worked with, but other than that, I kept it to myself. Later on Facebook, the county where I live has like a scanner feed page. And my friend came to me and said, hey, Lauren, that spacecraft that you saw, somebody mentioned it on this feed. And about 20 miles away from our location, it was also reported about the same time that I saw it.
Wow.
And they also mentioned, I don't think I mentioned that this was on Halloween weekend in 2019.
And also, just curious, what state are we talking about?
Oh, Oklahoma.
Oklahoma, okay.
And southern Oklahoma. So the county I live in is the southernmost county, almost to Texas. So, and then they also mentioned that they tried to take a picture of it with their phones and they couldn't. But that was all I heard about it. And one strange thing I thought of was, why isn't this on the news? Why aren't people talking about this? Because a big interstate runs right through my town, and this thing was right over the interstate,
Yeah.
And so I don't know if you only see those things when you're ready.
It could be, or also, I think people just don't look up anymore. The phone thing is one thing, but even like because I don't look at my phone when I walk except to change the music, but I really do feel like people are just slumped over. We've been beaten down. And this is not and then you see another one in 2023, correct?
I do. And I'll just mention real quick before I go into the 2023 one, there was a synchronicity that I had with this first one. The following week, I was watching, I don't know if you've seen the documentary about Bob Lazar, the Area 51 and Flying Saucers documentary.
I probably have, but
not
sure which one. But yeah, I know exactly who.
I know. There's so many. And so I was watching this documentary, and at 1 hour timestamp, I made sure it was 1 hour. He's sketching this UFO that he was working on at S4, which is that subsidiary portion of Area 51, where he was working on this craft. He draws it, and as he's drawing this craft, I'm like, man, that looks real familiar. And he's explaining the different parts on the outside of the craft. And an interesting thing about the craft was, yes, it was circular, but it wasn't hovering. It was gliding through the sky belly first.
Oh, I know what you mean. I know what that looks like. Yeah.
Like a quarter on its side, And so he goes to talking about this craft, and he said, and this craft doesn't hover like you see in movies. He said it propels itself belly first. And I was like, oh, this is the craft that I saw. And he explains the physics behind it, which I'm no physicist, but But he does explain that it is a different science than what we have. And he said, usually on stuff that we make, it's an action reaction system, like a propulsion system, like we have exhaust or large amounts of air that go out the back of our vehicles, planes, boats, what have you. Yeah. He said this craft doesn't have that. It's a reactionless craft.
Wow. And quiet, right? You didn't hear anything.
Oh yeah, so quiet. It was like stealth, and just gliding stealthily, if that makes sense.
Yep. Yeah.
And he said that the craft forms like a heart-shaped kind of energy place around itself.
How it levitates. Yeah.
Yeah. And it makes a heart-shaped distortion field around itself. And this allows the craft to essentially pull itself forward with the belly facing the front.
Wow.
And he said that it's the same thing. An analogy is if you put a bowling ball in the middle of your mattress, mm-hmm. and you put your fist down about a foot in front of the bowling ball and you push down on the mattress, that bowling ball falls forward.
Okay.
So what it's doing is the craft is bending time and space.
Oh.
And that's how it moves. There's nothing propelling it, but it's falling over the bent time and space.
Wow, I would love to. That's probably why we can't videotape it or take a picture of it, because it's not in the time space that the camera's in.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah, that's my attempt at physics, which is probably way off. Right. But so through this though, you're not nervous. You're not afraid of them. This is actually making you more assured, isn't it?
Oh, correct. So it wasn't a scary experience. It was, especially after I had that synchronicity with the documentary, it just made me more self-assured that I took it as signs that I was on my right path of purpose.
Yeah. And that's and then you made all these changes to your life that kind of led you to now. You were meditating and you got into all the weird stuff that we all do that our podcast says and that people are about.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where that leads you to now. What are you doing now after you got rid of all of that?
So one thing I have noticed when it comes to addiction, or specifically recovery, is I will notice people living in sobriety, but not necessarily living in recovery.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that, and so a person can be sober, clean of substances, but they could still be miserable. Maybe they still crave the drugs. Maybe they still have some bad habits to take care of.
Yeah, they're white knuckling it. And at that point, sometimes you wonder if that's worse, if that's like living a life with your nervous system all tied up.
Yeah. Oh, yes. And I mean, you just said it, because I heard Steve-O, from the Jackass. Mm-hmm. He's in recovery. Oh. Yeah. And so he said, I loved how he explained this. He said, I say that I never started suffering from addiction until I quit drinking.
Oh, interesting.
Because the disease, if you want to call it a disease, neither here nor there on that. But so kind of lost my train of thought. Sorry.
And I'm sorry I interrupted you there, because the mailman came, and I forgot, when you're on the East Coast, when summer comes, the mailman, the landscapers, and the people cutting the lawn are there 24/7. So I apologize. You were talking about Steve-O, and his addiction didn't start until he quit drinking, or however. I'll leave the floor to you.
Yeah. Yeah, he just mentioned that he didn't actually start suffering from his addiction until he quit drinking. And he explained that the reasoning was because the disease of addiction is not the drinking or the drugging. The disease of the addiction is what's underneath that.
Mm-hmm.
What are you running from? What are you trying to avoid, or what trauma do you have? Most of the time it's trauma. But
I have to tell you a strange story, because you and I have had the worst time trying to schedule this. Like, I think we literally started scheduling this 2 months ago. And it's like we got to it today. So I swear that, I complain about Utica. I complain mostly because I don't have hot yoga. So the place I went to yoga has a sauna. And the woman is so nice. She goes, Karen, why don't I give you the passcode to get in here so you can sauna whenever you want? Don't have to worry somebody here. And I was like, okay, well, now what am I going to complain about? That was like my last complaint. And now the slate is clean. I got to find something. So I was thinking in my head, the universe is doing this weird thing where it's like, okay, here's money, here's work, here's everything you asked for. So now you have to ask yourself, why are you unhappy? And yeah, so it's funny that as you were telling that story, I was like, last night I was walking around going, all right, now it's up to me. I got to do it.
Yeah. And that it's really hard when it comes to depression and stuff like that. Being depressed and having a reason is one thing. Right. Say a loved one passes away, and you're struggling and healing from that. But if you don't have anything necessarily going wrong in your life and you're miserable, that's pretty hard.
It is. Yeah. And it leads to kind of that question when we think people have it all. Oh, they have it all. What we mean is they have all the earthly things that, but, so this is really brilliant. So this led you to the work you're doing now.
Yeah. And so that led me to realize that I kind of just looked at my life one day, and I'll be I was 6 years clean in February. So I looked at my life one day and I thought, I never thought that I would be living a life where I didn't crave the substance. And I just thought, that's kind of crazy that the craving just kind of went away. I just don't, that part of my life is so an old me. It's not even, feasible or in my mind anymore. But what I believe happened is, like you said, I started the meditating. I'm a Reiki master now, and started the energy healing. And I believe that I raised my vibration so much that if you want to say, rose above my addiction. Mm-hmm. And what I mean by that is, for example, if you have substance X at a certain frequency, because everything is, out of vibration. Mm-hmm. And so say the substance is at a certain vibration and you take substance X. Well, if your vibration is lower than the substance, it's going to make you feel high or good. It's going to bring you up to its vibration. And also, if your vibration is at the same frequency as the substance, it might not do anything. Well, and also, if you raise your vibration over the substance, then if anything, the substance is going to probably bring you down. Because your vibration is up here now.
Okay, that is so great and so well put. And when you were saying that, I was thinking, I have a friend that's like, she's a really high frequency. And she's always like, wine doesn't do anything for me. And I was like, and I don't know that she's ever done like a whole bottle or anything because that's just not her way. But she's always like, you know what? I don't even order wine anymore. It doesn't do anything. So that is fabulous. So you help people get to the frequency where it doesn't matter anymore.
Exactly. So the goal is to not even allow that substance to register on your radar.
Wow.
So don't think about it.
This is really, I love this, Lauren. I'm so glad. I'm so glad all right. So let's get all your stuff out. And I just want to repeat for anybody looking for I love how many healers I have and kind of how many things they do differently. So Lauren can help you with addiction. She can help you with intuitive readings, with all kinds of things. But believe me, I think addiction, and it's not always a substance. Sometimes it's shopping or whatever. I think that's fantastic. And they can contact you. Your intuitivewitch.love. Instead of
yep.
Instead of
.com. So it's intuitwitch.love.
Oh, Intuit. Okay. And it's all going to be right in the show notes, folks. And that's funny because Intuit is my accounting software that just screwed up today. I wish you were doing my accounting. Intuit.
Yeah.
And I love that .love is a thing instead of .com. I might have to get a psychic stand-up in that. Instagram is intuit.witch and email is Lauren at intuitwitch.love. Oh, this was great, Lauren.
Perfect.
Thank you for coming on. Yes, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, Lauren in the email is Loren. I spell my name kind of weird.
Yes, Lauren Early. Well, wonderful. All right. Thank you, Lauren, for being on this part of the podcast. And I hope you'll come back again.
Of course. Thank you for having me, Karen.
All right. We'll be right back, folks.
Hi, everybody. Do you love everything paranormal, supernatural, or otherwise spiritual?
Well, of course you do. You're listening to Paranormal Karen.
If you like some humor sprinkled into your morning commute or wherever you listen to your podcast, we don't judge. We've got the most fantastic paranormal podcast for you.
I'm Dana.
I'm Matt.
And I'm Megan. We'd love for you to join us at Supernormal on YouTube or wherever else you get your podcast fix.
Trust us, it's weird, it's wild, and a whole lot of fun.
I'm not weird, you're weird.
Hey, everybody. Okay, here we go. So this is the second half of the Potpourri episode with Marissa LaGuardia is here. If it ends suddenly, which seems to keep happening to my podcast, I keep reading my bad reviews that say, I don't think she knows what she's doing. And I'm like, you guys are right. Because I'm unloading this card, but I'll be done for the year. And then next year, everything is going to be new and fancy. Marissa LaGuardia, how are you?
Hi, Karen. I am doing really well, actually. We were just sharing a little bit before we started recording about this butterfly that is still here. I'm outside in my parents' backyard and there's lots of beautiful flowers. And I am watching this butterfly and we're hanging out. So it's been here for probably 10, 15 minutes. Wow. It's beautiful. So I got the butterfly. I'm feeling good. Really enjoying my time outside. I'm excited to be here, of course.
You know, you really inspire me. So when I leave here to really get out and be in nature and just stop there. So you are an artist. You are a tarot reader. You are, I believe, a Reiki person, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And first of all, I want to tell everyone, because you've been on my podcast before talking about the connections of art and spirit and all that stuff. And you know, I say art is now mandatory. We all have to do it now. Now, first off, I want you to tell everybody about your Patreon because I love your Patreon. Tell them what you do, what's on it, how you inspire me.
Sure. Thanks. Yeah, I just started a Patreon. Actually, you were the one who encouraged me to do so. So I will thank you about that. But I started it in June and I have a decent amount of posts going, and really it's an experiment for me to reimagine what my online presence or just how I interact with people looks like. Because I really am pretty burnt out with Instagram. And it just feels like the way that people are expressing themselves and how we share our voice is changing. And so I felt an urge to go somewhere else. Also, I'm still just working through, even though, I really do consider myself an artist. It's hard to be seen in the world. And so Patreon is a place that feels more comfortable for me to be authentic and being seen. And so that as a whole is really an experiment in me uncovering myself in a lot of ways. And so I'm sharing some insights that I'm having as I'm tapping into my creative expression and just figuring out just components of it and ways to express that, I guess, if I could say that again. But so it's me figuring out how to be an artist in a way that feels true to me. And, sometimes that looks like speaking or dancing or making a ceramic thing. So it's really not limited to one media because I have a lot of intersecting interests. And I'm also seeing this as an archive for me to see the progression of weaving those things together.
And to me, it's interesting because, first of all, I think all art I love art now. I just love it so much. But you do these great, like you were putting up pieces, you were talking about having wasn't really a block, but you were like, yeah, I'm not inspired. So I did this and I just painted stars, or I just did this. Or one day you were talking about grief and then the vibration of Om, like all these different things that people don't have to be an artist to enjoy.
Yeah. And I think that I really am glad that you said that because I really think that that's one of my, like the biggest things I'm really hoping to remind people. Because, I've been a teacher and people just share, I'm not an artist. I can barely draw a stick figure. They have their ideas of what it should look like. And I also have those ideas. So I think the more I can tap into my own playfulness around creative expression and just show people like, yeah, if I had this dream, or I really wanted to draw with markers with my friends, or, I was walking in the dirt and, something looked really cool. So I played with dirt, those sorts of things are just more of an option, I think now more than ever.
Yes. And also, really because you show things like the first stage of things and then the last stage of things. And folks, if you haven't seen her ceramics at LaGuardia Clayworks, they're amazing. And I actually just was drinking out of the mug I bought from you today.
Amazing.
Yes, but also, and I have my snake bowl is on my counter holding my favorite snacks. So I have you all over my apartment, but this is really something I would love people to take a look at because it feels like a break from the regular, because these two things are connected. I kind of feel like everybody's yelling at us right now spiritually, or you're supposed to do this. Everyone's so sure of themselves. And there's like this gentleness and inspiration to what you're doing that I even said this to you, that you should give us assignments. Like you guys draw stars on a piece of paper or something. Who knows where you're going? It could go there. It might not. But to kind of see the way, because I'm not going to say I'm a non-artist, but us not like you're really a professional artist. But those of us that are not a professional, we think you got it done in 10 minutes and it's perfect. And that's what TikTok has shown me is it takes people 10 minutes. It's perfect. So to watch your creative process and be brought along is just beautiful. That's why I think people should join. And now you have more news. What's happening?
Oh, yes. Oh, first of all, thank you, Karen. That's really something that I'm hoping to convey. So I'm glad that that's coming through. And also one thing I do want to reiterate is the process it takes me to think of an idea and even say it with eloquence is very long. So the Patreon I'm not posting all the time every day, but I do definitely post more consistently than I would say my Instagram or any other social media. So I just want to put that out there, that I post when the inspiration hits, but it's consistent enough that I'm not going to leave you hanging. But I am in a period of change with my studio practice. In June, I moved out of my studio building because I was evicted along with all the other tenants just because the landlord sold the building. So I've been without a studio since June. Right now, it's coming out in November, but it's August now when we're taping. But I just had an opportunity to go into a new studio space, and by the time this is out, it will be public, so I can probably say that. But I'm the artist in residence at a ceramics facility in Western Pennsylvania. I live in Ohio, like right on the border of Ohio and Pennsylvania, so this is like very close to the other side. So I'm going to help them build their artist residency program, which is really exciting. And I'm also their first artist in residence. So this is something that I really wanted to do for a long time, just in terms of being a guide to help people build a creative place, and also just have an opportunity to be fully supported in my creative practice as just like, support and that kind of thing.
Yeah, just do.
So it's really cool.
Somebody is supporting you and telling you, just do your thing.
Yeah, and that's really exciting, and it took a long time to get there. I went to an art undergrad, and then I have my master's in art as well. And a lot of my peers were going to artist residencies and showing in museums and doing all kinds of things, and I was just applying and not getting anything. So I also wanted to share that it does take a long time for things to fall into place. And I feel like the pacing in which things are unfolding for me now is becoming more clear as to why I had certain delays or things like that, because my voice wasn't really cultivated in a way that matched my expression. And that's like what's happening for me right now. It's like this big shift. Jessa was talking about 2024 sort of being an energetic bookend for all the lessons that we learned in 2020.
Yeah,
and that feels so true for me. Like even the things that I was experiencing and learning, and the lessons that I was having when I first moved to Ohio in 2020 versus right now where I'm at, like I really am doing a lot of the things that I had hoped to do like immediately when I moved home. And then I realized, oh my gosh, it's going to take years for me to get through this, but I had to take that route to get there. Which is exciting. Yeah.
Yes, that is such a funny. I'm trying to explain it to people, and I can't quite. That we're at this is the final stretch. This is why it's so hard also, because we have to get it. But it's so funny that you would talk about that, because I just had like a hugely successful weekend with and this will be past by the time this comes out, but I had with psychic stand-up, and I was so motivated, and they were like, okay, the next one that you come back in October, that's a Thursday, it's 1,000-seat theater. And I was like, I'm going to sell that out. And they were like, well, you already sold 250. And I was like, they were like, if it was a Saturday, and I was like, nope, I'm doing it. Hopefully I did it. I'm putting it out there. But it caused me to look back. And there's a whole bunch of people doing psychic type stand-up stuff, but we're all different, which is great. But I thought about when I started 20 years ago, and I started going through all the things that were said and all the shows. I had a show canceled because the convention center was attached to a church, and the people of the church found out there was going to be tarot. And the day of, they told the minister, we got canceled that day. Like when I look at all the times someone said, we don't get it, we don't know what it is. And now it's just 20 years later, here we go.
It just takes time. And I always say this to you, but Karen, your psychic stand-up is my favorite. You're just I'm just like, it's so good. You just roast people, but you're also such a good psychic. And I'm just like, you're good at tarot and you're funny. It's just the perfect combination.
Well, thank you. Thank you. So listen, on your Patreon, are we going to see what's going on in your job also?
Absolutely. Yeah. So this is going to be a really cool opportunity for me to, just like uncover some of the things that I've been thinking about and process them. And this is like, it really is a test for me, because I moved back to Ohio to start a creative healing space. I feel like a lot of people had like this big dream of like, we're going to get land and it's going to be amazing. And so I also was very motivated by that dream to just like do this really intense thing in my hometown. But this is very similar. This place, it's called the Penn Ohio Clay Guild, if I can plug them. They're really in line with a lot of some of the hopes that I had for being here. So that's definitely something that I want to talk about. And I'll also have a studio again. So I have a mini series that I'm working on called Process Talks. And I essentially just make a thing and share downloads or insights that I have. So maybe one day I'll be at the wheel. Maybe another day I'll be decorating or carving, or maybe I'll be prepping a surface for a painting, or I'll just be engaging my creativity and also talking.
And
So you go ahead.
hopefully it'll be kind of like a time sequence too of how the space turns into what it's turning into.
Totally. I love that. Yeah. The guild just purchased a new building, so they're expanding into a larger facility. And so I really have a blank slate. And it's funny, I'm sitting with my sketchbook right in front of me, and it's a white cover. And I don't usually have anything that's white because I work in clay. I'm pretty messy. Like, it's just, nothing is safe around me. And so the fact that I have a white thing, I'm just like, man, I'm eating pasta in a white sweater right now. Like, this is, I'm really going for it. But I call my white sketchbook my blank slate. That was kind of hard to say. White sketchbook, my blank slate. And so this studio also is very much a blank slate for me to build something. And that's really exciting. And you shared that one of the voice casts I did on the Patreon was about grief. And I talked a little bit about just giving yourself space and time to process and let things go, and utilizing just creative ways to play around with grief and making it more lighthearted. And so I've been taking that to heart and really just like looking at some of the things that I had to go through and the people that I was, or things that may have been cringe, and just really looking at them in a different way with play and respect, so I can let them go. And so I've been really enjoying the spaciousness that's been happening for me lately.
You know, that
more.
Yes, I'm so inspired by what you're doing, and I kind of feel like I don't want to talk about me because I may be doing another segment with me, but I feel like something is crossing a line. Like when I keep asking to show me what I'm doing wrong in my dreams, and it shows me, but forgiveness, grief, all that stuff, we have to sit in it and then get rid of it. This pushing it down, it's not working.
Yeah, it's true. And I think that, another thing, I'm glad that you said that, because I wanted to talk too. I'm doing nervous system work with Z, SSP, Safe and Sound Protocol. And when I allow myself to really practice being safe in my body, then things change pretty instantly for me. It's a very quick shift. And so I really recommend people doing nervous system work or just getting in tune with their physical body, because it's really helped me feel safe and connected, and really trust the intuitive hits that I've been getting lately. But it's also very scary and hard. I definitely had a lot of just things that I realized in doing SSP that I was like, I have been ignoring this particular thing about me, or this experience that happened out. And so it is a mountain to encounter when you do that, but you got to go up them, so it's,
and we're going to give Z a plug on this. And if anybody is interested, you can email me, or I think I'll try and tag Z on this one, because, I'm almost done. I'm on hour 5. And I was like, it ends?
Wow.
What? It ends? And I remember in the middle, there was a point where I was like, I think more my life was falling apart, but I am so glad that I pushed all the way through. And the other day when I was driving in my new car, which was a complete, oh my God, what did I do? I bought this car where, and I started doing the exercises in it that Z taught. And it was amazing.
That's awesome. And that's just so much progress, and it's really amazing.
And I apologize that they taught me. I'm sorry, folks. I'm still clunky on it, but I'm trying.
Mm-hmm. That's the most important part, and acknowledging it, which is what we're doing right now. I think it's a perfect example of people just being honest and authentic, and also acknowledging that, they're not perfect. So love it. Go through those mountains.
Yes. Oh my God. All right. Now, it's so great talking to you. I'm so glad we started kind of hanging and talking too, because you're a good person. What a weird thing to say on a podcast. Everyone else that's been on my podcast, not a good person, but you're a good person.
Thank you.
Tell everyone where they can buy your ceramics, which also, I do want to say this because we're in November. Or maybe you can correct me, but you have gift certificates. And
I forgot.
Yes, I do.
I kind of pick a theme for Christmas for people, and just know it's very, very high on the list because they could get what they want, and your stuff is beautiful. Tell everyone where to find everything.
Awesome. Yeah. And I will say, if you share that you saw me or heard me on Karen's podcast, I'll give you a little discount code as well. So I'll do a little free shipping or 20% off. But you can find my ceramic work for sale at LaGuardiaClayworks.com. LaGuardia spelled just like the airport. Clayworks is one word. And I also have a Patreon. It's patreon.com/Marissa LaGuardia. And I have an Instagram that I go on sometimes. That's also LaGuardia Claywork. And then my personal Instagram account, which I never use, is Marissa LaGuardia.
And if someone goes on the LaGuardia Clayworks on Instagram, there'll be a link to your Patreon, correct?
Yes. And I also have a link tree on my Instagrams. And I'm trying to think. I had another thing to say, but I forgot. So I guess it's not important. Somewhere else, you could Google my name.
And
I don't know.
When you go to her website, take a look at the 2-cup theory ceramic cup set.
Yes. So yeah, I really also love making tools to support people in their ritual practices. So I have a 2-cup manifestation set that helps you jump timelines. Essentially, you can Google that if you're not familiar. And incense burners and lots of things. And so I'm looking forward to this new ceramics residency because I have a lot more facilities that I have access to. So the offerings are going to be upgraded for sure. Don't know exactly what that means, but they're going to look different.
Yes. And that weird noise in the background was me clapping.
That's okay. I didn't hear it.
Because I love that. All right. Thank you for dropping by. And awesome. Thank you, Marissa.
Thanks for having me, Karen.
All right. As of this moment, I do not know what the next segment is, but we shall tell soon. Hey, everybody, Paranormal Karen, what are you doing? Why aren't you taking CBD? Listen to me. P39CBD.com. That's where you want to go. That's where I go. That is where you're going to find the best. P39 CBD is committed to providing high-quality, premium-grade hemp extract products. P39 CBD uses organically grown industrial hemp sourced from nutrient-abundant soils right here in the USA to ensure a therapeutic-rich CBD product. Now, if you're not using them on your pets, go take a look at the website now. CBD, especially for aging pets, is fantastic, and you know how animals react way better to natural products. Get a jump on your holiday shopping and give the gift of health. Give P39 all-natural CBD. Use coupon code Karen for 20% off. Order now and get a free gift. Now listen to this list. P39 CBD is non-GMO, lab-tested, no pesticides, GMP certified, all natural, family owned and operated business. I couldn't even think of anything to add to that list to make it better. P39CBD.com. Stop by and see what they're all about. And if you're in Arizona, Fountain Hills exactly, make a trip, go in and say hello. Say, I'm a Paranormal Karen listener. 16810 East Ave of the Fountains, Suite 103, Fountain Hills, Arizona. P39CBD.com. Get yours now. Hey, everybody. Welcome to today's Patreon podcast, which is going to double as the third part of a Potpourri podcast coming out in November. Hopefully, some of you will jump over to the Patreon, and for $5 a month, you can just get 2 of these extra episodes, which are just me talking. Or for $6, you can get the energy read of the week and these whatever I'm doing right now. I put out 2 a month talking about the energy and what's going on. And this is September, and it is a thoughtful month. That's how I'm going to put it. And I have a lot to say. I used to call these episodes In Bed with Paranormal Karen because I would do them in the morning in bed, and then I stopped doing that, and now I'm doing it again. So I'm in bed in Vegas. Pondering many things. So I want to talk today. I'm getting very, very into this Gnostic stuff. And when I say very, very into it, I don't mean like doing great amount of research and reading books and history. I mean, by watching a guy on TikTok. That's how I do my my stuff. And if it's not a TED Talk, ladies and gentlemen, you don't need to know about it. That's all I'm saying. Everything we need is in a TED Talk or a TikTok. So there's this guy I listen to, and I've been listening to him for a while, and he sort of snuck it in later that he's a Gnostic. And a real quick, it's, for people that don't know Gnosticism, like a real thumbnail sketch, is that everything in the Bible is actually of Satan and or the darkness, you could say, and Jesus and actually Lucifer are the real gods. And it's that's very simplified, and it sounds like what, but when you kind of listen to it, it makes a little bit of sense. Like, why would God write a Bible where he wins, but also talking about how Lucifer says he is the serpent that told Adam and Eve, you are gods and you can have free will. Now, I don't think this breaks down to a you're really worshiping Lucifer or you're really worshiping God. Someone obviously that reads the Bible or studies the Bible would be like, this is Satan worship. I don't think that's what it is. I think it's really just about finding your source, God, entity, whatever it is, and being connected to that. And also, it's interesting that both sides use Jesus as a good guy. Everybody's with Jesus. I find that interesting. But I was examining myself because I feel like I've said this before, but I feel like making that one connection to source and then letting everything else be is what I need right now. And I was thinking I totally agree with this. We have the power to do so many things and create our reality. As you all know, I'm like 70 to 80% on that board. And then I think there's a little bit more to it that we probably can't comprehend or process. But when we do this feeling that we are gods, which that phrase just makes me nervous, I could say of God, and I think I'm talking about the same thing. It's a fine line. Maybe it's programming that's in my head, or maybe it's a little bit of fear. But when we say we are gods, we have to, and we're creating our own reality. I think a lot of us can't make that step because it is really being responsible for everything, for the bad things that happen to you, for the life that you have. Because a couple of things I've noticed, even as I see kind of the world getting darker, and I'm just going to use the analogy of seeing that Vegas, no one's happy. I used to live here. People used to come here to be happy. They at least used to have fun, but nothing looks like fun anymore. And I don't know if that's like they're gambling to try and pay off their mortgage, or they're, like I said, they're coming to the comedy club and having fun. But when you work a comedy club in Vegas, for me, it gets a little tough because nobody wants to think. And I always like my comedy to be thoughtful or bringing something in that maybe you didn't think of, or bringing in another perspective. But this is just, you got to keep it base. We're all broke. Everybody wants to have sex. That's it. That's how you win in a comedy club in Vegas. Don't be bringing higher spirituality in. That doesn't work. So, this is as much as I see things going a little bit south, and you could add into that politics or hating your neighbor or whatever, I also see where we really are becoming more powerful. It really is that line. Like, I really think you don't need anyone to remove an attachment right now. I sometimes it can get a little hairy, but where it used to be like 50% of the time you could just get rid of it, now I think it's 80 to 90. Sorry, I'm having my morning coffee. That's a ridiculous thing to leave in a podcast. Or, Karen, have your coffee first. So, as much as there's the downfall, there's the raising up. And I've noticed that it's literally just saying it, but we have to say it more often. We have to be in control of our energy more often right now. But we can really be like, you know what? I'm done. I'm using salt in the shower. I'm whatever the thing is, or I'm using garlic salt. That's what I have. Maybe it's a double duty. It gets rid of the vampires and you can't imagine. We live in apartments here in Vegas when I work at Brad Garrett's club, and they're beautiful. And they bring you dishes and you have everything so you can cook and have coffee. And that is amazing in Vegas because it's so expensive. Like right now I'm going with the other comic. We're going to go to Whole Foods and get some stuff. But it's the last 2 days before he got here, because I got here early, walking 40 miles to a store to pay $50 for almond milk was just such a pain. But now it's going to but you stay in these beautiful apartments that, thank God, are away from the strip. You're just a little bit off the strip. You're not in the chaos. You're not in all that stuff. But I went to get salt because I was like, yeah, I think it's time to start just throwing salt into my shower. And all they had was garlic salt. So now I think I'm taking showers in garlic salt and everything but the bagel seasoning. There's my joke for the day. So now, as we are taking, or I am taking on, I have made a shift. So in February, I'm living in North Carolina just for that month. And last night I had the worst anxiety dream because, again, I'm just going to leave it light. The chaos of where does your car insurance go? Where is your car registered? Where is your driver's license? It's making me insane. I thought I had it figured out, but every time you figure it out, you have another layer of red tape. And this is making me crazy. Having nightmares, but I have to keep reminding myself, this is a first world problem. This is a first world problem. I have added that onto everything, or the phrase, I don't really have problems, but this is bothering me. Okay. I think I'm making a shift out and making a shift really into that being responsible for everything, because I really don't have problems. People have cancer and stuff like that. I'm mad because I have to spend an afternoon at the DMV. So this sort of changing of dialogue, give it a try. I do feel like this anxiety means I haven't gotten it out yet. So I'm still processing it. I'm still processing the responsibility of, hey, I live in Utica because I made that choice. You know what I mean? I'm getting out and I can see the light at the end of the tunnel. But this being of God, that we are of God, means we did create everything. So I didn't create a parent with dementia, and I still have hesitation of saying she created that reality, but I did create the reality that I'm going to live close to her because that's who I am. That's what I'm doing. Oops, did I stop recording? You guys are probably listening like, what happened to the audio? Oh, there I am. Okay. So the tip there is add that to your dialogue. I don't have real problems. Unless you have real problems, then please feel free to skip it. So I've added that to my dialogue. Also, there's this thought of, I think that anxiety that I have is about putting too much pressure on myself. Like every month I do a live where everybody can come and read for each other. So if you're a new reader, it's good. You can join the Patreon for free if you want to be a part of that, because it's really fun and a safe place to learn. Well, I totally missed it in August. You know how many complaints? None. Only one from me, that I had let myself down. This level that we are keeping ourselves at as for personal pressure needs to be looked at, because that I also think is the anxiety dream, is that I had the big nightmare, and my nightmare is always, the plane is leaving. I can't get on the plane. Southwest won't change the plane, which oddly enough, the other day I landed in Denver and my plane left, I think an hour and a half later, and I should have eaten, but I just walk. I walk a lot in the airport just because that keeps me busy, keeps you in shape. And as I'm walking, I walk by a flight that is now boarding for Las Vegas. And I was like, hey, can I get on that? And they were like, yep. And they just put me on the flight. No. And then the guy goes, you're getting $9 refund. So this dream is not saying anything bad about Southwest. They just did it again. They just were like, yep, get on this plane. It's empty. So, but the dream is I can't park the car. Whenever I park the car to get to the airport, the guy says, you can't park here. Then someone broke my suitcase, then blah, blah, blah. So that anxiety dream, I believe, is the pressure I'm putting myself under for who I think I want to be, who I think I should be, what I think people should feel when they come to a show. I can't control what people feel when they come to a show. They might hate me, but they might not hate me. So I can't control that. So this is a time to look in the mirror. I know I'm really philosophical and can't seem to finish a sentence, but I'll finish it right now. To look in the mirror and ask, are the expectations I have for myself mine, or are they society's? Are they what I think success means? Are they what Hollywood thinks success means? Is it what I think the audience thinks it should be? There were 2 videos I saw, and one of them was very interestingly enough about Marilyn Monroe. And I'm not a big Marilyn Monroe fan, but this woman on TikTok, I wish I could remember her. I apologize to her. I'm sure she's not listening. But she was saying how the Marilyn Monroe effect was that she was sensory oriented. So I'm going to hack this up. I hope if you really need it, text me and I'll find the whole thing. But if you are sensory oriented, you are not worrying what the other person thinks of you. You are thinking of like, how do I feel right now? Am I okay with this? It's a very self-centered, self-absorbed feeling, which I think we may have given a little bit of a bad rap to. And that is not about ignoring other people's needs or anything like that. But when you're having a conversation with someone or doing comedy, are you worried what they're thinking? Are you worried they don't like your clothes? Are you worried that they might not think you're funny, or they might think you're a jerk, or you might have something on your face, or your makeup doesn't look right? Or are you thinking, how am I in this moment? Am I present in this moment? Present being aware of what is I'm using this as an exercise. I may be way off, but is the temperature okay? How do I feel? Am I hungry? Am I, sometimes stamping your feet, I feel like puts me in the present. But that was the thing, is Marilyn Monroe so much had the attention on, rightfully so, on her and her sensory in the moment, that drew everyone's attention to her, because her attention was on her. Everyone's attention was on her. So it wasn't a self-conscious, worried sort of energy going out, worrying about other people. It was a internal, like, I'm in this moment. How do I make sure I'm okay in this moment? And that is what I think this woman was explaining the Marilyn Monroe effect was. If I come across her, I'll put it in the show notes somewhere. She has a very interesting TikTok channel. So now I'm going to add something to that. Like, that wasn't enough of an exercise to try and be present and make sure your thoughts are not self-conscious thoughts about others, but like you taking care of you. Am I hungry? Am I okay? Being in that present moment. So as I was watching a show, there was a masseuse. I'm watching TV. I'm watching 6 Feet Under, and the masseuse character is working on someone, and she says, I don't know why you need a massage, because you're always so loose anyways. And I thought, that's where we need to get. What are you carrying? The person that she was saying, you're so loose anyways, is carrying no stress, right? That's where we have to get to. See if you can, if I figure it out, I'll let you know. But I know, especially when I am present, how tight my neck is, my neck and back. Now, there's a thing called bioenergetics, and it's a type of therapy. And I think we don't even need the name anymore, because we all get it. And if you're in the metaphysical or paranormal field, you get this. And it was about how people carry themselves. And I remember I used to watch this guy that carried himself with a very stiff neck and a very, like, almost from his lower back to the top of his head. It was like there was a 2x4 attached there, the way his body moved. And my friend, who was this brilliant therapist at the time and on the cutting edge of all this stuff, in fact, I'll tell you what she discovered. So this is weird. This episode keeps coming back to Marilyn Monroe. I was like, why does he carry himself like that? And she said, that's very observant. And he had talked on stage about his father hitting him. And really, they grew up in him and his brother grew up in a violent home. She said, as a child, when you don't know where the next hit is coming from, you move like that. You're braced for the next hit and it becomes your posture. And it was even like I would always see him look out of the corners of his eyes. So it was a posture connected to a childhood where he was just braced for the next, where is the next punch coming from? And that is why when we're so loose, whether that is after a massage or something like that, when the body is not carrying that tension, worry, fear, we literally walk differently. I remember when I first started doing yoga, and I've lost this, but I remember another comic that I used to go on the road with all the time. He was like, wow, even your body movements on stage are so flow and they're so just relaxed. And I don't know where yoga became like a thing for me. Like I gotta get in shape with yoga instead of look at how you're flowing. So I have to figure that out. The other part that I have to tell you about this brilliant therapist, she discovered something about borderline personalities that had never been discovered before. This was way back, I think in the 80s or 90s. So maybe this information is out there. But she found that someone that was a true borderline personality, if I drew a 3D box, like just 7 or 8 lines, someone with a borderline personality looking at that could not draw it exactly as it was. The lines would be disconnected. It wouldn't look like a box. It would be very disconnected. So if you think you're a borderline personality, which I don't even know what that is, but if you think you're one, do that test. Okay. So everybody, if you enjoyed that, that's kind of what goes on in my Patreon. I have different levels. I have like I said, $5 a month. You get 2 of these, whatever I'm rambling on about. For $3 a month, you get just a weekly tarot update of the energy of the week and what to expect. For $6, you get both of those. For $10, you get just my tarot classes. For $15, you get everything. And if you are a new reader and you are sick of reading for your friends and don't know how to make that crossover to reading for strangers, join the Patreon for free. And then when I do a free live class, I usually do them on Tuesday or Wednesday nights. Everybody comes in, I match you up with another reader, hopefully one you don't know, and you get to read in a safe place and practice your craft. So, it's all there. So that's Patreon.com/Rontowski. And that is it for today. I am done with my podcast for the year. It's going to be every 2 weeks. There'll always be a great episode. I have some fabulous people. And then I think right now, going to stay on the 2-week schedule for next year. It really works for me. And on the 27th, I will be putting out my yearly prediction podcast, which is always thought to kind of be the best and gets the most views. I thought about canceling the podcast and just doing that every 6 months and just calling in all these psychics, but I was like, it's easier to do the podcast every 2 weeks than to put together that episode. So stay well, everyone. Thank you so much for listening. I don't say that enough. You guys are what keeps me going on this podcast. And thanks to Mike at Uno Rising Media. Have a great day, everybody.